Hello, my name is Noah White, and this is my personality presentation for Management 571. And yeah, we can dive right in. All right, so a little bit of an overview on what the personality type test is and the MBTI personality test more specifically. It's actually MBTI stands for Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, and it's one of the most widely used psychological instruments in the world, and it was developed by Isabel Myers and her mom, Catherine Briggs, these two lovely ladies over here in this picture. And they based their work on Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung's theory on personality types and how that can have real world application. And it was developed in World War II. It was used on friends, families, and these two ladies continued developing it over 2 decades after they had begun. And the reason they developed it is for people to understand themselves better and so that people could select jobs that best suited them towards what their aspirations are in the world, just in general, which would help them lead a much happier life. And we all know people who absolutely like hate their jobs and dread getting up and having to go to work every day. And these two ladies did not want that for people. And they wanted to create a tool that would help people do the opposite of that and see what they would want to do. And so the way this test works is like after you answer a series of questions, people are then shown as having you have one of 16 different personality types. And once you know which personality type you are, you get to further explore what that actually means, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your likes, dislikes, what your career choice would suit you best, what kind of relationships you strive for, how you act in relationships, etc. And and so a quick overview of how the test actually works is, like I just said, you do a series of questions. There's 70 total questions on the test, and they're each divided up into 7 different columns. So there's 10 questions per column. But they're in random order, so you don't know which one is which. So you can't like cheat in that way or anything like that. And so like column one and column two are each in their own little group. They're against each other. And so you add up your total from column one, and that would be how many you have for the letter E. Column two, how many you have for the letter I, and then so on and so forth in that way. And so at the end of this, you would circle either you were either extroversion or introversion or E or I. And then for the next column, you are either sensing or intuition, S or I. The next one, thinking or feeling. The next one, judging or perceiving. You see how that works. And so a quick overview of each of these 8 different things, because you get 4 out of the 8. And so a quick overview on these is that first, extroversion or introversion. You're either one of the two. Extroverts are like outward tuning, and they enjoy like social interaction and they're action oriented. Their introverts are like inward turning, they're thought oriented. They enjoy the deep social interactions. They like really like their time alone. You know, people like that. And sensing or intuition is how you gather, and this is about how you gather the info from the world around you. People who are sensing usually focus on the facts and details and like to be more hands on. Like, this is what it is, this is what it says. They're like one with reality. They would probably tell themselves that. And intuition is are people who just like enjoy the possibilities. They imagine the future, paying attention to the patterns and impressions and things like that. Thinking or feeling is about basically how you make decisions, like how you base it off of. People who prefer thinking place a greater emphasis on facts and objective data, and they're logical when they decide something. And those who prefer feeling, or that's kind of self-explanatory, but you consider your emotions and consider the others around you before you make a decision. And so judging or perceiving is kind of how people deal with the outside world. And those who are judging, they want structure, they want the firm decisions. They're like, this is how it is, this is how we planned it. They like that kind of plan, you know, almost like type A. And then perceiving people, those are the ones who have the flexible schedule. They're easily adaptable to any situation. If something's not on schedule, they don't freak out. It doesn't stress them out. They kind of go with the flow, roll with the punches. And just exactly. So you would circle a letter for each of these. And I'm going to tell you what mine is here in a second. And then it will come out to one of the 16 personality types. And whatever you get, that's your personality type if you answer the questions honestly. And so when I took this test, I got extroverted on the first one. Second one, I got sensing. Third one, I got feeling. The fourth one, I got perceiving. So I was extroverted sensing with introverted feeling, basically. And the one I got, this was called, quote unquote, the performer. And the performer is a brief overview of basically what I am. Is a performer. What I read was they want to make life fun. They love being around people. They're independent. They're resourceful. They're spontaneous. They don't like structure or routine. Very good with kids and animals. Flexible, generous, warm-hearted. And honestly, I would agree with what I got on the test, because just for like a couple examples, I'm very much a people person, very much a people pleaser. I care more about relationships that I build with people wherever I'm working more than anything. That's what I strive for, the community, the relationships around people. And I do better in a group setting. And like, here's just an example. In high school, we had a program called New Tech, which was an optional way to take classes instead of the traditional way of a just teacher in front of the whiteboard lecturing to you. And what you would do in these classes is it was a lot of hands-on projects, and everything you did was based on a group. Everything was a group project. Everything, you had to rely on each other. And honestly, this was like what I excelled in when I optioned to join this program. I excelled in these. And then my last 2 years, I switched back to the traditional classes because New Tech ended up closing, and I didn't do as well in these classes. And it was just the teacher lecturing, and I had a harder time focusing and paying attention on that. And so when I learned this, it pretty much made sense about someone. And one of my favorite jobs that I work right now is I work at a summer camp out in Tyler, Texas with 6th and 7th graders, 11 and 12-year-olds. And it's one of my favorite jobs, and I do really well in that environment because we're all in a group, we're all hands-on learning, and we're all doing projects together and helping one another out in this. And I'm good with these kids and I'm over them, and it's something I really enjoy. And so when it was said it was very flexible and good with kids, that applied to me as well. And what I personally can do with these results is understand what kind of job that I want personally and what kind of role I play within that job. And so obviously I can understand that like a behind the desk job isn't really going to suit me and my personality. It's not going to be hands-on in a group with other people, building relationships instead of just sitting behind a desk by myself, which there's nothing wrong with that. That just doesn't apply to my personality. And whereas some people would thrive in that situation. And so that's what the results said about me during these. And so what's surprising about this test for me was that it was really interesting to see how like accurate the test actually was. And so at first you see 16 different personality types. One of them is probably bound to be wrong in some way, shape, or form, but it was actually very accurate for me, and I'm sure other people can attest to that as well. And one thing it did highlight was, like we talked about earlier in the quarter, my needs for affiliation in the acquired needs theory. I think we talked about like the second week of school. Like, I want a job where I can fulfill a need for affiliation and have those great friendly relationships with other people, just like a performer would. And the most surprising things about these results to me personally is also, this is a good thing too, was seeing all my weaknesses where, the performer doesn't do so hot in, where the performer like kind of struggles in. And one of the things that stood out was the extreme dislike of criticism, who usually takes it personally. That stuck out to me. And my first instinct was, when I read that, to be like, oh no, that's dumb. Like, what the heck? Like, that ain't me. And then I had to sit there and think about it. I was like, whoa, I literally did it right there. Maybe maybe they're onto something right here. But also like not doesn't like conflict, will go out of my way to ignore conflict or like not have to face it and earn my way around that. And like also not worrying about my own needs personally, worrying about the other people around me, which sounds good and it sounds appealing, like, oh, you never worry about yourself when you're leading others. But over this course, like I've learned how important that actually is. And the thing that stuck out first in my head was the CEO of the Princess Cruises, Jan Swartz, when she talked about how she has so much on her plate, but she always takes time to work on her mental and physical health as well, because she says, if I'm not healthy, then I can't serve my team, which stuck out to me and just put an emphasis on how it's important to worry about yourself too. And all these weaknesses are what I need to learn about myself and how I can do better on them. And my main takeaway from this assignment is that just how different people are. Not one personality type is best or better than another. And this test wasn't a tool to look for dysfunction or abnormality, but honestly, the exact opposite of how all these different personalities can learn from each other and work together in the same environment. And I thought that it was so cool, like how in detail every single personality had strengths and weaknesses, not just the performer wasn't the only one that had, a list of weaknesses on there that was more than you would think, but every single one had them. So every single one can learn from each other. And you can find out what you do well, you can find out what you don't do well. And if you're wanting to be in a leadership position sometime, which I hope to be personally, how I can understand like this, a test like this will help you understand your employees, the people working under you who are different from you and different from their other peers and other employees, and what's the right way to go about helping each other to become better. But that is all I have for today. I appreciate you listening,